The so-called human trafficking case, it's dead.
That was Joseph McBride, the American-based lawyer for Andrew and Tristan Tate, back in October when a judge in Florida dismissed a number of Jane Doe's counterclaims against the Tate brothers. And now, in the past week, McBride posted this after Jane Doe filed a motion to amend her counterclaims against the Tates. Let's have a look at what Joseph McBride is telling us and what has actually happened. Firstly, you can see in this post from McBride that he declares that Andrew and Tristan Tate have defeated both criminal and civil human trafficking allegations in Florida. He gave a very similar sentiment in that video he posted back in October, declaring that charges had been dropped.
Judge G. Joseph Curley has just issued a landmark ruling dismissing every major charge that's been used to smear Andrew and Tristan Tate for the past 2 years. Every major charge.
This alone is a bizarrely misleading choice of words from a lawyer. There is absolutely no criminal case or charges involved here. For those that don't know what this is all about, this all started back in 2023 when Andrew and Tristan Tate filed a lawsuit against a Florida-based woman who is now known as Jane Doe, who also happens to be one of the listed victims in the Tate's human trafficking case in Romania. They claimed that she made false allegations which led to their arrest, and in February 2025, Jane Doe filed a counter lawsuit against the Tates, which included claims related to human trafficking allegations, defamation, and more. So, to be clear, this is a civil lawsuit filed by the Tates, and a counter-civil lawsuit filed against the Tates by the young woman who goes by Jane Doe. It's ridiculous enough the way the Tate brothers themselves deliberately mislead and confuse the public between their civil lawsuits and criminal cases, but for their lawyer to do this publicly is just embarrassing. Desperate stuff. Going back to the judge's decision back in October to dismiss Jane Doe's claims without prejudice, it's very important to note that although Jane Doe's claims related to human trafficking were dismissed, some of her claims, including defamation and malicious prosecution, remain and are moving forward to discovery. We are going to have a look at why this is significant. If we look at this week's latest news, in Jane Doe's motion to amend her counterclaims, she tells the court that she intends to withdraw some of the claims, which would be the dismissed human trafficking related claims, to bolster her current claims, which would especially mean her defamation claim, to streamline the case, and improve judicial economy and efficiency. Most of this motion to amend is redacted, but if we look at a page which is not redacted, we can begin to see why this decision by Jane Doe's counsel to hone in on the defamation claims could be a strong strategic one. This unredacted page talks about the Tates using their own and their associates' statements on social media to intentionally extort Jane Doe into recanting her testimony to Romanian authorities and to stop cooperating with Romania's investigation and prosecution of the Tates. This starts to look very bad for the Tates when you actually look at the statements they have made on social media about Jane Doe. Have a listen to what Andrew says about her in this Twitter space.
Andrew, can I ask, have you thought about any sort of countersuit against the people, the women that have come out with these allegations?
Yes, we have one ongoing now, and I would actually very much like my attorney, my American attorney, Joe McBride. You can follow him on Twitter. He's a hero.
Can he join us?
Let me see.
Join us here right now?
Let me see if he's free now.
I'm sure you can't answer some of those legal questions, but you said there's an ongoing suit. Could you maybe detail what you are asking for in that suit? Are you asking for damages?
Yes, I have to be careful what I say because I believe there's an injunction. I can't say her name. I can't say certain things. But effectively, the girl who started all of this is a serial liar. And she accused us of human trafficking her, which is such a strange claim. We can go down the conspiracy rabbit hole that she was sent to do that. We can go down the conspiracy rabbit hole that Decault jumped on it because they wanted promotions. We're not sure. But she accused us of human trafficking. But she's accused 6 other men of the exact same crime.
Have they been arrested or
One
tried?
of them killed himself during the trial. So this is a genuinely evil person. And every single man she ever met, as soon as he didn't buy her a handbag, she accused them.
To be absolutely clear, everything he just said about her was untrue. She has not accused 6 men of human trafficking. That is completely made up. What the Tates and Joseph McBride have done is take a few confirmed instances of fully grown men molesting this girl when she was underage and saying that they were the victims of her. This is what the Tate's lawsuit against her is completely reliant on, and they've taken proven instances of grown men molesting her as a minor, one who has been convicted and is serving a prison sentence, lied about the number of men, saying it is 6 when there's 3 that we know of, and just made up that she falsely accused them of human trafficking when she has never accused them of any such thing. Jane Doe's notice to amend her counterclaims mentions Joseph McBride publicly stating that if she recanted her statement, all of this goes away. Here is the statement which McBride made on the Fresh and Fit podcast of all places that is being used against him.
Would she have to go back to Romania and testify in trial?
If it reaches a certain point, surely. And she'll also have to endure my cross-examination here in the civil case, right? We're not gonna.
Oh yeah, she has to take the stand in a civil case.
Hell yeah, she has to
Yeah.
take. She's a defendant. The idea of me having her on the stand,
Oh, you're gonna kill her, bro.
forget it. I will rip her to shreds.
Yeah.
Body bag.
She has body bag for sure. She has no chance of survival. I don't see how she gets on and endures this. At some point, she's going to have to cop out to the truth.
And just so the audience understands, because so you guys might be wondering, well, hold on, she's a defendant. Why is she taking a stand? Guys, she has no Fifth Amendment privilege in a civil case.
Nope.
So she has to take the stand.
And discovery is a whole lot more invasive.
In the civil case.
Oh,
So so you guys have, because you guys have, now I see why they don't want you guys to put the evidence out, because through discovery, you have all their phone records.
It's depositions, phone records. I mean, we're going after all of it.
Do you think she's going to go to trial? I see her settling.
Look,
She doesn't want to have to go up against you in the stand. She has no Fifth Amendment privilege. She has to testify truthfully. She's going to be on there on the stand. You're going to beat her up and you're going to attack her with her character, the text messages. You said you guys did discovery, which means you have all of her records. You probably have videos of her doing stupid shit as well, and that's all going to come out in court.
Right.
During the trial. Like, all of that stuff is going to come out. And he's going to use it against her.
In the alternative, she can just tell the truth. Right? This is what this is about. Just tell the truth, and the whole thing just stops. Like,
Don't forget that this was during an active criminal human trafficking investigation in which this woman is listed as a victim. The lawyer representing the men who are charged with these serious crimes helped them file what is, in my opinion, a frivolous lawsuit against her, then went on the Fresh and Fit podcast to attack and defame her and level threats against her, telling her that it would all go away if she altered her statements to the police. Absolutely insane stuff. Okay, remember the convicted pedophile I spoke about earlier, who is currently sitting in prison because he is convicted of molesting Jane Doe when she was a minor. This ties into the mention of the Tate's good friend, Candace Owens, in Jane Doe's motion to amend her counterclaim. For those of you who don't know what Candace did here, I need to warn you that it is vomit-inducing. Candace uploaded a full-length video attacking Jane Doe to defend her friends, the Tate brothers. Candace said Jane Doe's real legal name over 100 times in this video and presented the pedophile who is in prison for molesting her and other underage girls, whose name is Keith Fox by the way, as the victim in the situation, censoring Fox's name as she deliberately repeated Jane Doe's name over and over and over. This is sick stuff.
Yoga instructor under arrest charged with having an inappropriate relationship with a student.
The first case involves a man who I am not going to name.
Instead of doing a yoga pose as shown here in this 2015 video, 58-year-old Keith Fox posed for a mugshot Tuesday. Police say he had sex with a 15-year-old girl.
The only reason I'm not going to name him is because at the time of the allegations against him was in fact a minor, and that of course is relevant. So we just want to be ethical here and not expose his name so that people can look up the case.
The arrest report shows that the teen's mother hired a private investigator to follow her daughter and Fox. Last June, while Fox's wife was away on business, the investigator saw the teen at the front window of Fox's home, quote, in the nude, touching one another in a sexual manner.
So we just want to be ethical here and not expose his name so that people can look up the case because, as I said, she was underage at the time.
She did talk to detectives, provided lots of details.
Other details, according to Delray Beach Police, date back to February last year.
It started off with just a very close relationship between a teen student and her yoga instructor. He made a few inappropriate comments.
Police say those escalated to several serious allegations against Fox. Those include that he touched her in his car and offered a Thai massage.
So of course, there's a reasonable worry that there might be other victims.
The first case involves a man who I am not going to name, and the only reason I'm not going to name him is because at the time of the allegations against him was in fact a minor, and that of course is relevant. And not expose his name so that people can look up the case because, as I said, she was underage at the time. Essentially, it was believed that she was having sexual relations with him, and the courts found that to be true. And he is now been sentenced to 24 years in prison.
Delray Beach Police arrested Fox on a charge of sexual battery on a victim over 12 years old. He remains here in a jail cell tonight after a judge denied him bond.
So we just want to be ethical here and not expose his name.
Credits to Nathan Livingston of Milk Bar TV for that edit. This is as sick as it gets. Candace Owens saying that this man in his 50s was exploited by a girl who at the time was only 15. And remember, the Tates used this same argument in their defamation lawsuit against her. Quick announcement, for those that don't know, Gadget has started a Patreon. If you'd like to support my work, that's the best place to do it. Patreon helps me plan bigger projects for the channel and stay independent. It will also give you early access to some videos and some exclusive content. The link to join is in the description. And if you aren't able to contribute financially, subscribing, liking, even following for free on Patreon still is a massive help. Okay, back to the video. So let's talk about why I don't believe that Jane Doe's team voluntarily removing her human trafficking related claims against the Tates and going all in on defamation is the massive victory that Joseph McBride wants you to think it is. For a start, I believe Jane Doe's defamation claims against the Tates are devastating. The claims they've made about her are provably false, caused damage to her reputation, and resulted in her receiving massive amounts of harassment. The Tates are public figures while she is not, and they've repeated these lies to a massive audience many, many times.
What if I were to tell you one of the American girls who started all this garbage has accused 7 other men of human trafficking? 7. How many times can one person be human trafficked? Do you understand where I'm coming from?
For more context, here is a segment from a live stream I did with Crayon Murders back in October when the judge first dismissed Jane Doe's claims without prejudice. Firstly, it shows that we both predicted that Jane Doe's team was likely to drop her dismissed claims and focus on the defamation-related claims. We also explain why the human trafficking claims in this civil lawsuit being dismissed has absolutely no bearing on the criminal human trafficking charges against the Tates. I'm curious on your thoughts, because and we can only speculate, but based on this ruling and what the judge had to say about the coercion, and based on your reporting of the Zoom call and what James has corroborated with the judge having problem with the coercion being used as fraud, hypothetically.
Deception.
Yeah, deception. Sorry.
Deception uses fraud.
Deception
yeah.
use. Thank you for deception uses fraud. which we could see potentially, like someone could be charged and prosecuted criminally for that. But if this judge doesn't see it that way, my speculation on this is what might end up happening is if this judge just doesn't budge on this, what could end up happening is these claims about the trafficking could end up going away, and they could just end up honing in and focusing on the defamation claims, which we'll get to later with some examples of how I think are very slam dunk. Do you think that might be the case, that they might struggle with this?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they presented, if they put everything in the filings to try to explain it to the judge, and the judge isn't on the same page regarding, what he defines as human trafficking based on, his interpretation of the law. And again, the judge, he's a judge. He's earned that seat. He's earned that position. So he gets to interpret the law based on his interpretation. So if his interpretation does not agree, and this ends up being dismissed. Keep in mind, though, he dismissed without prejudice. So he's not saying, I'm not hearing it. He's saying that you need to write a better script for your movie. Right? Like I made that analogy earlier. He didn't say, because if he dismisses with prejudice, that means get this shit out of my courtroom and never bring it back. But without prejudice means like, hey, you can file this again and try to explain this in a better manner so I can be on the same page with you. And he's done the same thing for both sides. He's done this for Tate before, and now he's doing this for them. It's part of the process. All of this is part of the process. I have no proof of this, but just based on my conversations with some lawyers, and I've seen the Tate brothers do this as well, it is a legal tactic when you are filing a lawsuit or a counterclaim to throw a ton of shit against the wall with the sole intention of overwhelming the other side and making them fight a bunch of claims, knowing that that's going to increase the likelihood that some of them are going to stick, versus just coming forward with one or two claims and letting the other side just focus entirely on those. And then you run the risk of both of those getting shut down. Again, I'm speculating because the defamation moved forward. And that's not going to really change the amount of money, because this is a civil case, so she's suing for money. That's not going to change. Like, because these guys have such a large reach, they're celebrities. They have, the things that they say that she's alleging, how they defamed her, they went out to tens of millions of people. So, the millions of dollars that she's suing for, it's really not going to make that big of a difference. And if they finally don't accept the trafficking allegations and all of the trafficking claims and some of these others, I don't think it's going to matter that much, because this is a financial decision. She can still sue them for $5 million for defamation. Some people get, celebrities. Sometimes, they can get hosed for loads of money for defamation cases alone. I don't know. It could have been a legal tactic. The Tates did the exact same thing. They come in, they throw a ton of shit against the wall. They sued the U.S. Marine. They sued one of the alleged victims who doesn't even live in the USA. They sued the parents of the girl. They threw all of these allegations against the wall, and some of them stuck, some of them didn't. And I think that's kind of what my opinion is that could be happening here. Like, hey, we're going to throw all this shit against the wall. Some of it's going to survive. Some of it's not going to survive. And the stuff that survives, we'll move forward on that. That's my opinion.
Yep, and we could very well end up with a I think brutal defamation claim and just keep it at $5 million. I see that very, very possible.
Based on defamation, and here's an interesting thing: they are public figures, so the standard for defamation against them is very high, very high. It's a different standard than the defamation against her. So, in order for them to claim defamation, that she defamed them, they're going to have to prove that what she said was false, and she knew it was false when she said it. And I don't think they're going to be able to do that. Very high standard. However, for her suing them for defamation, all she has to prove is that they made a false statement and presented it as fact. So all of the times that they went on all the podcasts, all the tweets, all the videos, all the live streams where they said that she's accused 6 other men of human trafficking, or she accused this man of this or that, and this man killed himself because of her. They presented these false statements as fact. Now, obviously, I'm not the judge on this, but those are pretty, if I've ever seen a case of defamation, a clear case, that's it. When you're presenting false statements as fact and you're publishing it somewhere, you said it publicly, that is what defamation is. They don't have that high standard with her because she's not a public figure. She's a normal person. So it's a lower standard. So they're going to have a harder time getting a judgment against her, and she's going to have it easier. So it's in her favor in this, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the reason they're claiming that she defamed them was, number one, because after their compound was raided, she gave statements to the Romanian authorities. So first and foremost, that's called privileged, meaning that you're not supposed to be able to be sued for giving a statement to the police. So I'm surprised this has even survived that long. And when it goes to trial, it probably won't. And the other thing that they're suing her for is because she was sending text messages to her parents saying, we're going to escape when everybody's sleeping because we think they're trafficking women. So that's a private information that wasn't published. So none of this stuff was published publicly. So I think they're going to struggle to meet that out of the gate. And number two, if she believed that they were trafficking women or they were trying to traffic her, how are they going to prove that what she said was false? Especially when they've been charged with human trafficking and prosecutors in Romania have uncovered 40 plus alleged victims. Yeah, I think they're going to struggle in trial to get a judgment against her. I mean, again, who knows? The judge could surprise us, but it's a higher bar for them than it is for her. I wanted to add some clarity to that.
Absolutely.
Her defamation is moving forward. It's survived. That means it's going to discovery. And the crazy thing is, again, like I said, in terms of money, she was suing them for $5 million. If she has a strong defamation case, which I believe she does, she can sue them for millions of dollars for defamation alone. So if some of these other claims don't survive, multiple motions to dismiss, she's still going to win that, I think, because they said some pretty nasty stuff about her and they presented it as fact. Nothing backfired.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not only him saying that their case has backfired. He's conflating this with this supposed global conspiracy, meaning that he's saying that the Romanian case, the UK prosecutions, the tax evasion, it's all backfired because of these claims being dismissed without prejudice. It's so silly.
Yeah.
What we are essentially left with here is defamation claims versus defamation claims. The Tates, two public figures, are suing one young woman who is not a public figure for giving statements to the police and cooperating in their investigation, and things she said privately to her parents that she never published online, whereas she is countersuing them, two public figures, for repeated false statements that they made about her, which were broadcasted to millions and millions of people, resulting in her being harassed, confronted in her workplace and in her home, and having to go into hiding. As much as Joseph McBride tells us that this is a devastating victory, I believe this has backfired massively on the Tates. Based on all the available evidence, it appears that their goal was to intimidate her into backing down and retracting her statements to the authorities. Instead, she has not backed down and is countersuing them. For this, Jane Doe deserves credit. I, for one, do not believe that the Tate's defamation lawsuit versus her counter-defamation lawsuit will at all go well for Andrew and Tristan. I will be sure to follow this story as it develops. We will likely have an update and a lot more details in the near future when Jane Doe files her amended counterclaim. Thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates in this insane story.